This is just an outrageous story of government overreach involving a Minnesota retiree, Geraldine Tyler. She was behind $2,300 on property taxes, so her county seized her condo, sold it, but then kept every penny not only to satisfy her debt, but the entire value of the sale, according to a report from Reason magazine.
Now the U.S. Supreme Court is considering a case that asks whether this particular strain of government theft is constitutional. It better not be.
Yeah, so to be clear, the details here are that her condo was valued at $93,000. Remember, she was $2,300 behind on her property taxes, and then she was hit with another $13,000.
She thought it was an unsafe area, so she had to move into another home, but she still had the condo, and she couldn't pay both, fell behind, and the government took the condo.
So when they sold the condo for $40,000, meaning that after her taxes and late fee and her penalties, there was $25,000 left over. And normally in most states, they would return that money to you. But in about a dozen states in this country, these governments are able to just keep the money. So there's this question about whether or not that qualifies as a government taking, which is prohibited by the Constitution, and also whether or not there's an argument here that there's an Eighth Amendment violation of a disproportionate, unreasonable fees here. And this is one of those ones that I think is, it's written up in Reason. It's obviously got very strong libertarian leanings, but the kind of civil rights implications of this are significant as well. AARP is backing her in this case. This is an issue that obviously disproportionately affects seniors and many people who are also not necessarily as cognitively competent to keep up with, you know, payments and fees and things like that. It might not even be an issue of inability to pay, but it is just a failure to pay. And this happens so often with elderly citizens. And it's a way that governments that, local governments that want to develop certain areas are often able to push out older communities because they can find people who've made these kind of administrative mistakes and really bring the book down hard on them. Right.
And to be clear, in this article at Reason, they quote a Pacific Legal Foundation attorney, which is the nonprofit that handles cases like this. Big friends of Reason magazine. We quote and promote their work all the time. They do great stuff on this front. Look, obviously, it's sad, but if she's fallen behind on her payments, yes, the government can take her property.
Yeah, she's not disputing that part.
But they can't take it and keep all of the proceeds from selling it. They can only keep the part that she owes. They're supposed to give her the rest. This is closely related to asset forfeiture, which is a circumstance where the police will seize in the course of an investigation or an arrest. They'll seize all sorts of property. If they arrest you at your home, they might take everything of valuable they see in the house. They might take your car, not give it back if you're arrested on the road. Even if the assets they take have nothing to do with the underlying crime, even if the crime is never proven and you're found innocent, they can hold on to those assets forever. It is so hard to recover assets that the police take in the course of an investigation or arrest, even if you're completely innocent, even if you're found to be completely innocent. People have lost, it happens in a lot of drug cases where people legally growing medical marijuana or pot dispensary, something like that. Plants get taken, they cost a lot of money, the farming equipment gets taken. It's found that there's no conviction, there's no crime, they don't get that stuff back. People lose hundreds of thousands of dollars. Sometimes poor people, it's their only modes of transportation is a car. The government won't give them back.
Yeah, it's described by many as legalized theft, and police know that they can kind of wield the threat of stealing your assets.
Because there are cases where generally the police just pocket that money, or whatever sometimes they don't even, maybe they took your speakers and they're gonna have a better sound system at the station. I know that sounds ridiculous. That happens. That absolutely happens.
It absolutely does. Billions of dollars of assets are seized every year by the police force. Yet another reason why I would argue there needs to be substantive police reform. Not only are the budgets for the kind of salaries going out of control. There's a story right now out of New York where Eric Adams has decided to close down public libraries in order to save money for a budget that people have argued he's mismanaged, that's largely gone to putting more and more money into the police force. So you're shutting down public services for budget bottom lines that aren't really geared toward keeping police communities safer, but it does seem to be a sop to a constituency that is keeping him in office. There's a lot of criticism about that being made right now. But with all of the public back and forth about the role of the police, whether or not they're performing their duties, whether or not events like what we saw in Uvalde are indicative of how they're policing across the country, the gentleman that was shot in the story that we told yesterday because he was pulled over for having a air freshener and for having expired plates. All over and over and over again, people are questioning what the police are doing, and I think this is a really under-examined aspect of their routine practice. But it also ties in with these broader arguments I think that you make very well and frequently, Robby, about the way that these state laws are rigged that really disenfranchise the financial interests of various people. And, you know, there is a lot of corruption that can happen, of course, in a government level. Again, it's worth saying that in most states, the majority of states, something like this wouldn't happen. But the fact that this has been going on for so many years and is only now rising to the level of being reviewed by the Supreme Court is pretty galling. Right.
And it should matter, you know, when we talk about funding the police, for instance, well, what exactly are you funding? Are you funding, you know, are you closing more murder cases because you're hiring more detectives? Or are you going through the rape kit backlog? Or are you hiring more people who are gonna raid legal pot dispensaries? That kind of steal property from people. From a conservative, property rights perspective, this is not a good thing. So let's be cautious about doing this. And in the meantime, absolutely, some states have banned these kinds of practices. All states should ban them. Many libertarian nonprofits, state-based organizations have worked to do so, working in partnership with organizations like the ACLU, et cetera. This is a feel good. Everybody can come together and oppose this kind of one. So it's just literal work that needs to be done.
Yeah, check out this story. A 76-year-old named Benny Coleman apparently lost his D.C. home over a $134 bill. $134. The government sold his house for $197,000 and kept the profit.
Ugh, that's disgusting.
Benny ended up sleeping on the porch with dementia.
It's obscene. Yeah, it's just theft.
We're going to have to continue to follow this case and see how that turns out.
Yeah, so this is going before the Supreme Court.
Today.
Yeah, you could hopefully, again, because this is an issue that can unite people on the right who are concerned about property rights and individual rights, et cetera, and people, of a progressive or liberal or democratic bent who are
civil liberties.
It'd be great to have this be a 9-0 or 8-1 or something. So we'll have to see. We'll have more Rising right after this.